November 12, 1970. A seemingly ordinary day, marked on calendars just like any other. But this particular date would etch itself into the history of East Pakistan, forever altering its course. Along the vast expanse of the Ganges Delta, millions of souls resided in small, scattered villages, their lives intricately tied to the ebb and flow of the tides and the predictable rhythm of the seasons. Agriculture and fishing were the mainstays of their existence. Fishermen, casting their nets in the hopes of a bountiful catch, farmers, toiling in the fields to nourish their families. Resilient, accustomed to the challenges of their environment, but ultimately unprepared for the sheer magnitude of what was about to unfold. The sky, once a familiar blue, turned an ominous gray, a harbinger of the impending disaster. But warnings, if they existed at all, were few, far between, and often confusing, lost in translation, or simply unheard. Radios were a luxury, rare in these remote corners, and government alerts, emanating from the distant and often indifferent West Pakistan, barely reached the poorest and most vulnerable communities. Most villagers, with their deep connection to the land, saw only a strange and unsettling sky and felt a growing unease, a primal instinct warning them of impending danger. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees and whipping across the open fields. Animals grew restless, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Their instincts heightened, and the air grew heavy, thick with humidity, pressing down on everything like a suffocating blanket. Families gathered in their fragile homes, constructed from bamboo and thatch, offering little protection against the forces of nature, hoping, as they always did, to weather another storm, to emerge on the other side, battered but unbroken. They had survived many before, countless cyclones and floods that had tested their resilience, clinging to the hope, passed down through generations, that this, too, would be no different, that they would endure. But this was not just another storm, a typical monsoon squall. It was a cyclone of unimaginable power, a force of nature unlike anything they had ever witnessed, Bhola. The day faded into a tense, uncertain night, filled with foreboding and unspoken fears. The land and its people braced for the unknown, for a darkness that threatened to engulf everything they held dear, unaware of the true scale of the disaster that was about to descend upon them, a catastrophe that would forever scar the landscape and its people. The calm was deceptive, a cruel trick of fate, the silence before devastation, a stillness that masked the fury gathering on the horizon. In a matter of hours, everything would be irrevocably changed. The familiar world they knew would be swept away. The fate of a nation, already teetering on the brink of turmoil, hung precariously in the balance, its future uncertain. The storm was coming, and with it, a wave of destruction that would test the very limits of human endurance. Night fell, and the wind, which had been a whisper, steadily grew into a deafening roar. The air crackled with an ominous energy. Roofs ripped away with violent force, torn apart like paper. Trees snapped like twigs, their roots ripped from the earth, a testament to the cyclone's raw power. And then, darkness swallowed the villages whole, plunging everything into an abyss of fear and uncertainty. The power lines were down, leaving no light to pierce the gloom. Then came the wall of water, a monstrous, churning beast of the sea. A 30-foot storm surge, an unstoppable force, crashing over the islands with unimaginable fury. It swept away homes, reducing them to rubble in an instant. Livestock, helpless against the onslaught, were carried away by the relentless current, and people, caught in its unforgiving grip, were lost in seconds. Survivors clung desperately to trees or any floating debris they could find, but most were tragically lost to the raging sea, swallowed by the unforgiving waves. The land vanished completely beneath churning black waves, disappearing as if it had never existed. Stories of survival were rare, whispers in the wind. Tragedy, however, was everywhere, a heavy blanket smothering hope. The surge didn't just flood. It didn't just cover the land. It erased entire communities from the face of the earth. When the water finally receded, leaving behind a trail of devastation, it dragged away the remnants of life, the shattered pieces of what once was. Entire villages disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the storm's insatiable hunger, leaving only mud and an eerie, unsettling silence where laughter and life had once thrived. The geography of the region was forever changed, the coastline redrawn by the cyclone's destructive hand. The night of November 12, 1970, was a night of total devastation. a date etched in the collective memory of the region. The silence that followed the storm was haunting, a constant reminder of the lives lost and the world that was irrevocably altered. Nothing would ever be the same. The landscape, the lives, the memories, all were forever scarred. As dawn broke, it revealed a landscape transformed into a wasteland. The vibrant greens and browns of life were replaced with the dull, lifeless gray of mud and ruin. Mud, debris, and the haunting specter of death were everywhere. The air itself seemed thick with sorrow. This was once a place where villages thrived, where families built their lives and communities flourished. Now, only fragments remained. The death toll soared with each passing hour, a grim testament to the cyclone's fury. Hundreds of thousands of lives were tragically lost in the storm's wake, a number so vast it was difficult to comprehend. This immense loss of life made Bhola the deadliest cyclone in recorded history, a dark mark etched into the annals of human suffering. In the aftermath, survivors desperately searched through the debris, clinging to the hope of finding loved ones alive amidst the ruins. But with each passing moment, hope dwindled, replaced by the crushing weight of despair. Disease spread quickly through the devastated landscape, thriving in the unsanitary conditions. Waterborne illnesses like cholera and dysentery became rampant, preying on the weakened and vulnerable. These diseases claimed even more lives, adding to the already staggering loss. With no food to sustain them, no clean water to quench their thirst, and no shelter to protect them from the elements, a profound sense of despair settled in, heavy and suffocating. Entire communities vanished from the map, wiped away as if they had never existed. Families were shattered, torn apart by the storm's relentless force. The trauma ran deep, leaving invisible scars that would linger for years to come. The survivors were left with absolutely nothing, stripped bare of their possessions and their security. All that remained were grief and the haunting memories of what had been lost. The cyclone had not just destroyed homes and buildings, reducing them to rubble. It had erased a way of life, obliterating traditions and customs passed down through generations. The psychological scars inflicted by Bhola would last for generations, a constant reminder of the storm's devastating power. The world, as they knew it, had irrevocably changed overnight, leaving an unfillable void. Bhola was far more than just a storm. It was a cataclysmic event that redefined the limits of human suffering. It was an annihilation of everything they held dear, a complete and utter devastation. The pain inflicted upon the survivors was immeasurable, a burden they would carry for the rest of their days. In the aftermath, survivors were abandoned by their own government. Relief from West Pakistan was slow and inadequate. International aid arrived first, highlighting the government's neglect. The contrast was stark. Foreign teams brought food and medicine while officials offered little. General Yahya Khan's visit was seen as a hollow gesture. The disaster exposed deep political divides and resentment. Bengali leaders condemned the government's failure. The people felt betrayed, fueling anger and mistrust. The cyclone revealed the systemic inequality between East and West Pakistan. The tragedy became a political turning point. Trust in the Pakistani state was shattered. The seeds of revolution were sown. The Bhola cyclone became a catalyst for change. Outrage over the government's response galvanized Bengali nationalism. The Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won a landslide in the December elections. West Pakistan refused to honor the results, igniting a crisis. The struggle for autonomy turned into a fight for independence. On March 26, 1971, Bangladesh declared independence. The Liberation War began, a brutal conflict born from disaster and neglect. The cyclone's devastation fueled the drive for self-determination. From tragedy, a new nation emerged. The memory of Bhola endures as a symbol of loss and of hope. Bangladesh was born from the storm.